Welcome back, class 10, your history class, continuing with chapter 4. Today we'll start with surat split. Split means breaking off or difference. Partition of Bengal led to the assertion of strong methods of Indian politics. After the partition of Bengal, strong methods, assertive methods of nationalism came into the arena of Indian politics. Assertive nationalists came to believe that it was impossible to gain any concession by petitions or prayer. So now it is the time for assertive nationalists. They started believing that the methods incorporated by the moderates, that means prayer, petitions, were of no use. It was useless. The young men were beginning to ask, what is the good of constitutional agitation if only results in insults and partition of Bengal? So young people, young youth of India started asking, why are we agitating? Why are we protesting if this protest does not bear fruit, if this protest is futile, if this protest results in insult and partition of Bengal? So what is the result? What is the use of such protest? The Kolkata session of the Congress in 1906 witnessed a sort of compromise between the leaders with moderate views and sturdy or assertive nationalists. So, the Calcutta session of Congress in 1906 witnessed a compromise, a midway between the assertive and the moderate and the sturdy nationalists. Sturdy means strong. Dadabhai Naoroji had been specially called from England by leaders with moderate views to preside over the session because he was a very respected Indian nationalist, and he was in front of his towering personality. No one dared to open their mouth. It was a clear move, the purpose being to prevent Tilak from becoming the president of Congress. Tilak was from the assertive nationalist camp. So if Dadabhai Naoroji came from England, he would obviously become the president of the Congress session, as he was the senior most, he was widely and hugely respected. A split was feared. Split means separation. Was feared, but the personality of the grand old man, that is Dadabhai, prevented it from happening. He prevented the split from happening. Swaraj was proclaimed by Congress President as the goal of India. For the first time, Swaraj or complete independence was the goal of the Indian Congress. Why Congress was split into two groups? Why Congress was divided into two groups? The word Swaraj was uttered for the first time by any Congress president so far. For the first time, the word Swaraj was pronounced or uttered by any Congress president. Another remarkable feature of Kolkata session was the resolutions on Swadeshi and boycott were also adopted by Congress. So the Congress adopted the policy of Swadeshi and boycott. This clearly showed the dynamism was gaining in the Congress. So dynamic people who wanted to do work, active people, they came into Congress. The leaders having moderate political opinions were not happy with these developments. So obviously, people with softer views, softer point or softer outlook, moderate outlook, they did not like this dynamic people and these development. They wanted to insert a clause in the Congress constitution that Swaraj was to be achieved through constitutional means. They start in the uh, Congress constitution, they wanted to amend and include a clause that Swaraj can be attained but by constitutional measures and not by revolutionary measures or assertive measures. Assertive nationalists, on the other hand, believe that unless they put strong pressure on the government, they would not achieve their objectives. So, what was the assertive people believe? They believe that until and unless you put pressure on the British government, if you don't pressurize the Britishers, results will not be obtained. Swadeshi and boycott were the basic components of their program methods of struggle. That is why the Congress got split. The Congress got divided in the Surat session in Surat, which is in Gujarat, in 1907. The Surat session. Assertive nationalists proposed the name of Lala Lajpat Rai as the president of the Surat session. So, what did the assertive nationalists propose? They proposed that Lala Lajpat Rai would be the president of the Surat session. The leaders, believing in moderate policies, proposed the name of Raj Bihari Ghosh, but people from the moderate section proposed the name of Raj Bihari Ghosh. When the session of Surat began on 26 December 1907, there was utter confusion. There was total confusion. It ended in a mess or failure. So it was a total mess, it was a failure. The Surat session, at the Surat session, the split of the Congress became official. In the Surat session, Congress officially was divided into two subgroups or groups. For about 9 years, the assertive nationalists, Tilak and others, kept out of Congress. For 9 years, Tilak and other group of the assertive nationalists kept themselves out from the Congress. The repressive measures of the government. Assertive nationalists suffered most for the cause of freedom. Since the movement for boycott of British goods was gaining ground, the government launched a campaign of repression. Since the movement for boycott for British was gaining ground, it was getting importance. The government launched a campaign of repression. The government started to repress or suppress the movement. We have already seen that Tilak was lodged at Myanmar Mandalay prison. Tilak was taken to the Myanmar or Mandalay prison under the Seditious Meeting Act of 1907. The district magistrate could prohibit holding of meetings. The Newspapers Act of 1908 was aimed for punishing those editors, those who contained writings against the British rule. So, obviously, the government started to pressurize, started to torture, started to repress or press the movement. Tilak was arrested under the Seditious Meeting Act. District magistrate could prohibit holding of meetings. Newspapers Act of 1908 stopped publishing of any article or any writings which went against the Britishers. So such measures failed to arrest the nationalist movement because see, if you want to suppress a movement which is for the truth, which is for the freedom of a country, which is for the ultimate goal of Swaraj, if you want to suppress such movements, it will only flare up, it will only increase the movement. So, what happened was, such measures failed to arrest the nationalist movement. On the contrary, they grew up into revolutionary groups. So, the Britishers could not stop the movement. The movement did not stop at all. On the contrary, it became more intense, and various revolutionary groups, Swadeshi groups, they started to crop up in Punjab and in Bengal. So, what were the objective programs and methods of struggle of assertive nationalists? The most aggressive among the nationalist leaders at that time was Bal Gangadhar Tilak. The British journalist V. Chirol described him as the father of Indian unrest. He was the father of Indian unrest. All the political unrest, all the assertive measures and things like that were taken by Gangadhar Tilak. He was the father of assertive nationalist movement. Besides Tilak, other were Bipin Chandra Pal, Lala Lajpat Rai, and Aurobindo Ghosh. So, what were the basic beliefs and objectives? See, they had no faith in the British sense of justice and fair play. The assertive nationalists understood the true nature of the Britishers. So they did not believe that the Britishers are very good people and they will do anything good for the country. They highlighted the deceit and treachery by means of which the British conquered India. They exposed and highlighted the treacherous or the bad way how the British conquered India. Lala Lajpat Rai wrote, "An Englishman hates or dislikes nothing like beggary. It is our duty to tell Englishmen that we are no longer beggars." So, three P's, pray, please, and petition, was now over. And Tilak also said that political rights will have to be fought for. You have to fight for the political rights. The moderates think that these can be won by persuasion, by requesting, by petition. We think that they can be got only by strong pressures. Their sturdy spirit provoked self reliance, self dependence, and self determination. Now, what was the ultimate objective of the Britishers? As regards to the ultimate objective, the assertive nationalists would not be satisfied with anything lower than Swaraj. They would not get satisfied until Swaraj was attained. That is self government. Tilak said, "Swaraj was my birthright and I will have it." The leaders having moderate policies asked dominion status. What is dominion status? Dominion status meant that there will be self government but supervised by the Britishers. Their objective was to improve the existing system, not to get rid of the Britishers. They said that the Britishers will be there, but we will have a self government which will be supervised by the Britishers, and whatever existing system is there, we will improve upon it. The moderates never said that they want to get rid of the Britishers, but the assertive nationalists thought there is no piecemeal reform would do. That no half baked reforms. You have to get the Britishers out of the country. Lala Lajpat Rai wrote that the subject nation has no policies except the policies of freedom. There is no politics except the politics of freedom. So their program and methods of struggle. What was their program and methods of struggle? Their programs were revivalism. Questions are often asked. They sought to build the national movement on the basis of people's religious beliefs. They started reminding India what a rich cultural and spiritual and religious background we have. Bal Gangadhar Tilak revived Shivaji festival in 1895. They presented Chandragupta, Vikramaditya, Rana Pratap, Shivaji as national heroes. So, whose memory should be cherished, remembered fondly. Second was Swadeshi. Swadeshi idea was to popularize by occasional bonfires of foreign cloth, salt and sugar. Occasional bonfire means setting fire on. Fire was set on British cloth, fire was set on sugar, salt, things like that. The blazing flames were greeted by the shouts of Vande Mataram. Boycott. Swadeshi and boycott go hand in hand. They are supplementary and complementary to each other. In fact, boycott meant far more than mere boycott of British goods. It also included boycott of government services, honors, and titles. So, boycott not only meant boycotting the British goods, it also meant you have to boycott Government services, you have to boycott all the honors and all the titles given by the British. Besides, a man selling or buying foreign goods were also subjected to national boycott. Then comes national education. During the Swadeshi movement, many new educational institutions were started. The contents of the national education were as follows. What was the content? What was the main, you can say, syllabus or the course of national education? Number one is secular education. Number two is religious and moral education. Number three was political education. Number four was vocational or industrial education. So, religious education was aimed at building up a pupil's character. Moral character should be built up. Whereas political education meant carrying out one's civic and political responsibility. So, what was their achievements? See, first, they lived a life given to utmost suffering and sacrifice. Obviously, these radical assertive nationalists, they lived a life of utmost suffering and sacrifice. Through his writings in Maratha and Kesari, Tilak preached sturdy or strong nationalism. Second was self-reliance. You should be self-reliant. You should be able to do your own work, was the watchword of the sturdy nationalists. They wanted India to have complete faith on their own abilities. India should be self-reliant. They should be, of course, they were self-reliant. It was known as the Golden Bird. Britishers came and robbed and made her crippled. So going back to that, reminding the people of India that you are enough. Your people, we are enough as a country. We are enough as a nation. So we should be self-reliant. Then was the Swadeshi movement gave a stimulus, a growth to national Indian industries. Moreover, Swadeshi and boycott campaign developed into a political weapon that crippled British administration. Obviously, through Swadeshi, Indian uh, industries got a momentum, got a stimulus which was dying before. Fourth was they broadened the social base of movement. What does it mean? Previously, uh, during the moderate, only the educated class came to this whole nationalist movement. With this assertive movement, the participation of the people were broadened from peasants, that is, farmers, workers, women, youth, students, all of them came. The arrest of Tilak in 1908 led a strike to Mumbai textile workers. So after Tilak was arrested, the textile workers of Bombay, they went for a strike. Fifth, they revived the Shakti cult in India. It drove many young men to the path of revolution. Revolutionaries such as Khudiram Bose, Madanlal Dhingra, and Ram Prasad Bismil will be remembered by history for their supreme sacrifice they made. They are people will India will remember with pride and honor. Their sacrifices created a huge stir both in England and in India. Finally, they never bent to pressure of any kind. They were not afraid of any pressure of any kind. Their objective was total independence or Purn Swaraj. That was their main objective. They refused to budge an inch from that position. So, the main thing was they were not afraid of anything. They were not afraid of the Britishers. They were not afraid to fight. They refused to be soft, moderate, prayers, petitions, please, no. And they refused to budge, move an inch from the position of what from the position means from what they want, from their demand. They refused to move an inch. So in today's class, we have learnt about the surat split. We have learnt about the repressive measures of the government. We have learnt about the objectives of the assertive nationalists. We have learned about the programs and methods of struggle, and we have studied about their achievements. We'll continue with this chapter in the next class. Hope you have understood what I have taught today. Thank you for today.